was a kid, if you were sick, there was a pill you would take, or there was a procedure they would do, and you'd be in the hospital for a day or two or a week. Now, thanks to Dr. Oz, we've learned it's much more greater than that, right? You can heal with food. You can heal with a good attitude. I mean, the whole world has changed in the past, let's say 10, 15 years, the things we've discovered about things other than pills and surgery, right, Dr. Oz?
Well, the amazing thing about medicine is the advances we have made have also shown us where the limitations are. So I can change a heart. That's heart transplants. We do a lot of them at Columbia. I can do all kinds of crazy things with cancer, and some of my colleagues have made huge advances in cosmetics, et cetera. But fundamentally, food can fix it. And I say that because it is the first step to feeling your best. So yes, you have medicine, hardcore medicine that doctors provide as a backdrop, and is always there as your insurance policy, your safety net. But your day-to-day battle for health is one in your home, in your kitchen, your living room, your bedroom, and you ought to take advantage of those. So the bedroom part we want to talk about so explicitly because it is actually, the kids are listening.
Yeah. No. They love to hear about sex.
All right, let's start there then.
Yeah,
all right. So the first thing you do, all right, and then but in your kitchen, which is where the biggest battles are fought. And
have sex in your kitchen.
Exactly. That's what I was about to say.
I'm sorry.
There are eggs there. So but if you think about a grocery store, when you walk into it, you're walking into a pharmacy that's richly able to help you get through a lot of the aches and pains and malaise and lack of energy and all the things that hold us back from being who we are. If you get that done day in and day out, you establish a little habit around it, all of a sudden it becomes easier to do the right thing, and guess what? You feel like $1 million. And then you're looking around and saying, how come everyone else doesn't know this? That's why I'm always surprised when I talk to folks on the show about some huge epiphany, some big breakthrough they've made. The usual comment they make is they are surprised that they didn't know about it earlier. They didn't realize how easy it was to be healthy. And when they figured it out, they want to talk about it to everyone they know. That's why people who are healthy become zealots.
Okay, so you have this book out. It's coming out next week called Food Can Fix It. So you're not saying that everything in the health world can be fixed with food, but you can prevent a lot of things and you can fix some things. For instance, give me one symptom of something I could fix in a week with the proper diet.
So just to define why I called it Food Can Fix It, is I'm not saying it's going to make it 100% better. It makes it better enough that you don't need anything else done, or if you need something else done, it's easier to do whatever you need. So let's say you have a cholesterol problem, right? We know that eating the right foods can help your body deal with cholesterol and all the other basic chemicals in the body much more readily. So why not take that as your first step? If it's not enough by itself because you've got some genetic issue going down, then I get it. Then take the medications. But if your first step is to put some statin drug, Lipitor on a kielbasa, right? That doesn't work so well.
Right.
Cut the kielbasa out first, then take the pill if you need to add it. And you asked me for one concrete step, perimenopausal issues, right? People who have aches and pains and depression around menopause. Don't forget that. Around menstruation, that time of the month comes and you feel down. You're cramping.
How can I eliminate my cramping?
It turns out that women who have you're cramping. I'll speak to the women out there. If you have high amounts of the B vitamins, especially B6 and B12, folic acid, women seem to have less of a problem with their menstruation. Huh. And so why not take advantage of that? Again, this has been studied. We didn't know this. It's hard to study this stuff. But once we figure out that it's true, eat foods that have lots of B vitamins in them or take them as a supplement.
What foods have lots of B?
Eggs. Meats actually have B vitamins in them. But in this case, I would probably take a supplement to make sure you're getting enough. That's the other thing. Vitamins are valuable as a backup plan. You should try to get as many nutrients as you can from real food. Knowing that 90% plus of us don't, then it's worth taking a multivitamin just to make sure. An issue like that.
Like
but Elvis, you know this. There's a sacredness to food. The most powerful thing that food does is bring us together in the community. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because if you realize that food is sacred, and then there's nothing healthier than laughing while eating, then I begin to have sort of the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, I'll automate my life. I'll make the right decisions. I'll do the things I talk about, and Food Can Fix It. And the other 20% of the time, I'll just have a good time. It's okay. You'll survive.
The other day when you and I were having lunch, we were sitting together at that table, just talking, having fun. We met some people at the table next to us. You know what? Do you have that car going by? Sorry about that. I've got my window open. It's kind of nice. I love my studio. Anyway, I felt great after that lunch. We ate great food, but I think the conversation, being with my buddy for like an hour, just talking about stuff. We talked about stuff that was important, stuff that wasn't important. I felt great. And so meals, it's more than the food. It's hanging out with your friends, connecting with people. So there's nothing better than food and people. Those are my two favorite things.
Yeah, and
marijuana.
Yeah, marijuana, of course. Now, speaking of marijuana, since you brought it up, we'll come back to food. I've got a big show on Friday. Montel's coming in. Montel Williams, who's a U.S. Marine.
He loves pot, right?
Well, but why? Why? He was not a pothead.
Because he has
multiple sclerosis.
Yes, and he says it's been one of the best things for him.
Right. So here's the
clinical marijuana.
So here's the challenge.
Let me go close my window. I'm sorry.
Okay. While you're playing over there, let me filibuster here. Medical marijuana has become the biggest hypocrisy in America. The stuff works well enough that we should be allowed to study it, and we crazily are fearful of it because we think it's going to cause it's a gateway drug to opiates and heroin. It's the opposite. It might be the exit door to addiction for a lot of folks. And here's the thing that's really bothering me. Opiates, narcotics, Vicodin, all these different pills, they don't have the benefit we think they have for chronic pain. In fact, they've not been shown in big clinical trials to work in chronic pain. So we're giving a dangerous drug for a problem it really doesn't fix that well. It might make worse. And a drug that might work like marijuana, we're not allowed to use.
Yeah,
it's completely crazy.
They tell you that those things, you have to kind of be ahead of it. So, like, you have to take that, whatever, one of the ones you were just talking about.
The opiates?
Before the pain starts. And kind of chase it.
Yeah, but I tell you, it doesn't work in trials when it's been looked at for chronic pain. It actually makes it worse for a lot of people. And it's very dangerous. So I've lived my whole life thinking, well, it could kill you because it's addictive, but you do have this chronic pain, so I'll give it to you. Well, if now that I know it doesn't really work for chronic pain that well, and other things do, like maybe marijuana, I want to get away with marijuana. There's never, ever, ever been someone who's died from it. And listen, I don't get high. I've never been high. But I do, as a doctor, get angry when law enforcement's making decisions about the health of Americans instead of doctors. There should be a medical decision made by physicians. States have approved it. The federal government needs to allow the research to happen more readily in order to get out of the way.
Hey, so let's talk to Courtney on line 23. Interesting that we're talking about this. You were texting in, Courtney, about using medical marijuana for chronic pain. Have you used it? Have you seen results? Or are you having a problem getting access to it?
Well, I live in a state where it is illegal medically, but you have to have a waiting period of 90 days. So I have seen a doctor, but I'm in the waiting period before I can get it.
Right.
I do have a friend that had it, and I did try it, and it was life-changing. For the first time in 5 years, I had 4 hours that was pain-free, and it was amazing.
Well, describe to Dr. Oz what you're going through just quickly, and what is causing your pain, and what did the medical marijuana do for you?
So I have chronic shoulder pain. I've had lots of different diagnoses, but the current one is thoracic outlet syndrome. And so I am on opiates for pain, and they really just sort of, I like to say that it's like if you're listening to music and you put headphones on, it kind of mutes the music. Well, it kind of just mutes the pain. It doesn't go away. But when I tried the medical marijuana, it actually went away. And it was amazing. I felt good for the first time in years.
That story is so common. And I travel around the country. I hear it over and over again. I hear parents crying because their child's not seizing anymore. I talk to very, very well-known people whose loved ones have bad cancers and all of a sudden could live their lives again. And I'm sitting here as a doctor saying, this is completely bizarre that we're not allowed to do something that works. And yet we're actively embracing another option, opiates, which, as you mentioned, dulls your awareness of the world. And by doing that, dulls your awareness of the pain that's in your world, but doesn't actually treat your problem. And more importantly, it could kill you, right? But you could smoke 1,000 times more marijuana than anyone prescribes and still not be killed because it doesn't depress your airway. It doesn't make you forget to breathe. Whereas with opiates, you just take a couple extra pills, you're dead. It doesn't make any sense that our nation has been tricked into this fiction and we're unable to change it. We're smart people. And now that we all know it, let's go there.
I've got a question. How many people on this show have know someone who's been affected by a death from overdose of opiates? I know I have.
Everybody. Of course. Yeah. Close friends have died.
It's getting worse and worse and worse. Well, look, thank you for your call, Courtney. I do appreciate your time, and I hope things roll in your direction and into the direction of people who really could use medical marijuana on their side. I appreciate your call. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look, okay, let's go back to food. We have so much to do. Oh my God, Dr. Oz, when you come here, we never have enough time. Let's go back to the deconstruction of food in America. Now, you were telling me that chicken, you love chicken. Chicken is actually a great thing for us, right?
Chicken's fabulous, and in an unprecedented move today on the show, we have the leaders of 3 of the biggest chicken producers in the country: Tyson, Bell and Evans, and Purdue. Mr. Purdue's on the show. And why are they coming on? What are they so worked up about? They think they're under siege, and they have been attacked for having chlorine in the chicken. It was a big story over the summer, and they're saying that they actually don't think it's dangerous. So here's the thing: when the chicken are slaughtered, they are either allowed to cool down in a refrigerator, or they're washed. If they're washed, they put chlorine in the water, the same way you put chlorine in water you swim in.
Why do they have to put chlorine in the water?
Because they want to keep it clean. It's why they chlorinate swimming pools, public swimming pools. They don't want the germs of one one chicken to infect the one that's next in the water bath. Like with humans, we put chlorine in there so that if you're swimming after someone who was infected with something, you don't catch it. So the biggest issue, they say, is it doesn't really matter because the amount of chlorine is so small. They're saying it's actually a rumor started by other governments, is a trade war to prevent our chickens from being exported to other countries. But then I said, listen, while you guys are here, let's get into the other issues that are affecting the American consumer, like organic chicken. Is it that big a deal? And why is it that only that people have to pay so much extra for it?
Well, yeah, when I go to the store, organic chicken is sometimes twice as much as regular chicken.
Right. Now, here's the thing. All 3 of those companies I mentioned, all the big manufacturers that I know of, are moving towards organic chicken. It's better for the environment, but they've heard us. The American consumer loudly is saying, I want my food to be healthy, and I don't want to pay through the nose for it.
And but also a big part of it is how the chicken is living during its life.
Yes.
And some of these companies are not great about the way they treat the chickens when they're alive.
They need to massage their chickens, like
they
Kobe,
need to let them
the
walk
Kobe
around
cows.
and breathe. So not be in a cage with 7 other chickens.
So that's
if I have chlorine in my chicken, it's because I let it swim in my swimming pool. It has a great life.
But to deal with Bethany's point about their lifestyle, to this thing called free-range chicken. And I asked these guys, to be honest with me, what does it really mean? So free-range chicken means they could go outside. Doesn't mean they actually went outside. And if they go outside, they could go out into a cement patio. They're not running around frolicking in the woods. Now, the other thing they point out, and they said, to be honest, chickens they're chicken. They don't go outside. They're scared. And they prefer to stay indoors. So I said, well, how are they treated indoors? And some of these practices have been horrible. And they tell me, and I have a little bit of evidence on this, trying to clean it up. They're trying to
So which chicken should we buy then?
Organic chicken.
Happy chicken.
Happy chicken. Organic chickens are chickens that have to have been allowed to go outside, not just on a cement patio. They can't be given antibiotics. They're not. They're humane treatment inside the facility as well. Listen, I know it's a little more expensive. If you can afford it, I really think it's the best thing for our communities and our societies, and it's the most humane thing for the chicken.
I have an idea.
Yeah. Yes.
What if we send Greg T to the chicken farm and have him tell jokes? Like do a stand-up routine.
There we have it.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah. Have you heard Greg T's conspiracy theory about chickens?
No, please tell.
No, it's very. You may want to not put your book out yet. You may want to add a chapter before it comes out next week. By the way, Dr. Oz, Food Can Fix It is out next week, and we may have to halt publication for this new chapter. Yes, tell him, Gregory.
Well, okay, Dr. Oz, in all due respect, I appreciate what you're doing and trying to, to give people knowledge about chicken. But let's be honest, okay? From coast to coast, worldwide, there are places everywhere that are serving what? They're serving chicken. You can get up in the morning and you can have a chicken patty for breakfast. You can have chicken in your salad for lunch.
We're very familiar that there's chicken.
So what happens is, think about this, Dr. Oz, there's not enough chicken in the world to supply all these people with chicken. The demand of chicken is so tremendous.
Chicken wings,
there's not enough. What I believe is happening is the government has these factories set up in areas that we cannot get to, and they are manufacturing what they are calling chicken under the laws of what percentage of chicken has to be in something that a human is eating.
You're saying they're manufacturing like chicken parts.
But it's not real. They're putting all things into it, whatever, and they're going, oh yeah, that's chicken. And behind closed doors, they're going, well, we cannot supply the American people with chicken. We don't have enough. Because think about this, Dr. Oz, if we had enough chicken, you'd have chickens right underneath your feet. You'd have chicken everywhere. We would have to have chicken in the streets of Manhattan.
What would it be like to walk down the street?
You'd have to be like, excuse me, chicken, you'd be stepping over chicken.
So
you'd be
Dr.
at Times Square
stepping
there's
a conspiracy.
There's
no way
chicken.
for them to grow enough chickens to give us the chicken amount that we're receiving.
There's not enough.
First of all, Greg T came on the show. God bless him, with his beautiful wife and daughters to talk about trampoline injuries. I'm going to take that part of the show out now. Because I don't know if I can trust him. It's such a good tale.
10-cent chicken wings. Where are they getting all the chicken wings?
Maybe it's not as bad as Greg T tells us, but there's got to be some chicken, as Bethany's described, that these chickens are treated so horribly, you shouldn't be eating them.
Yeah, well, two things. First, to Greg T's defense, there's definitely filler in a lot of the chicken you see. So all they have to say is, and they have crazy rules on these things. You can the word chicken is in there, but that's the only thing that's really chickeny in it.
Right.
My issue is really Bethany's point that if we don't treat the factory farming practices have been horrible, and I am of the belief that these guys are beginning to hear us. We've been yelling and screaming and voting with our pocketbooks. Organic is an example of that, but we got to continue down that path. But again, the three of them came on the show for a reason. And again, they never appear together on shows. They don't come by themselves on shows. They are all saying the same thing. We've heard you. We're making differences to happen, and here's the evidence to date. And I think you're going to see, and as an example, a drop in the price of organic chicken, because if everyone's making organic chicken, and all three of those companies are now, there's the biggest guys are making organic chicken and making a lot of them, it becomes the new norm.
Yeah.
Instead of hidden little factories that you're not allowed to film in, which is, by the way, the rule in some states, then now it's going to be, okay, you want transparency? We'll give it to you. Buy our stuff. Make us rich by buying our stuff, and we'll make sure we're making a better quality product. That's the new America.
All right. Now, what about meatloaf?
Ooh.
Yeah, I made a beautiful meatloaf for my friend Dana. I call it my my trashy barbecue meatloaf.
Oh, I love it. The name's
and she loved
catchy.
it. Now, meatloaf, they're saying, is just one of the most god-awful things you can eat. But you look like you were about to lose yourself sexually when you were thinking about meatloaf, Dr. Oz.
I'm going to blow the lid off this. Here's the thing. I looked into meatloaf. 100 years ago, meatloaf was basically the prior evening's leftovers. And you would put a little bread in there and some milk and mash it up, and it would work. Then during the Depression, Second World War, because of rationing and the like, they started taking the meat out of the meatloaf. And then for the rest of the 20th century, we basically had bread with a little meat in there. It was junky stuff. It was moist, but wasn't very good for you. Americans started making healthier meatloaf, but unfortunately, we overdid it. And we took super lean meat, 99% this or that, try to make meatloaf. It tastes like mud, right? And it's dry, which is the worst.
It was dry.
Oh,
it was chalky.
Yeah, chalky. So you can make meatloaf, but you got to make it the right way.
Talk to me.
Butter.
Well, you don't need a lot of butter, but here's how it
Lard.
is. Lard. You need 75% lean, maybe 80%, but not much more. It's got to have a little fat in it.
Right.
So 85% max. Right. Then you need some mushrooms, because mushrooms actually give it some meatiness and some moisture at the same time. You need a tiny bit of bread, not much, a little bit of gelatin, and you can and some milk, and you can make a great little basting that works with it as well. And
But wait, isn't gelatin from the hooves of animals?
Yes, gelatin is from the hooves of animals. Thank you for that appetizing insight.
Okay.
Yes, they take the hooves off and they bash them up, and it's collagen. So, but actually, if you make meatloaf like that, it's not as healthy as it would have been, but it tastes so good, it doesn't matter. And that's the trade-off in life. You're much better off eating something that's mostly healthy than not eating at all.
All right. What else? I'm having so much fun because I'm getting hungry. I'm thinking that eating is going to make me healthier than not eating. A lot of people say, oh, I could skip a meal or two. That's really a bad way of looking at taking care of yourself. You need to be eating, but eating the right things.
Let's do mac and cheese.
Oh.
Are you a big mac and cheese?
Let's do I'll do a mac and cheese right now.
Talk about it slowly.
Yes. Let's
talk about it.
Getting back to sex. Yeah.
Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese.
Have you ever had sex with a mac and cheese?
Of course. Everyone has.
Go right ahead.
So you have hasn't everybody?
Yeah.
So moms love mac and cheese because the kids love it and because it's so easy to make. Right? And the way you make mac and cheese in a home, you take the little powdered stuff out and you put it in there.
The orange powder.
The orange powder. So the question about that is, why is it orange and how do they make it into a powder?
Is it the same powder they use on Doritos? Back to you.
Back to me. So they used to have artificial coloring in there. They've actually replaced the artificial coloring now. They've got paprika and turmeric. They put other yellowish spices in there. So that's a good thing. And the second thing that comes up is the issue of phthalates. Now, have you heard of a phthalate before?
That doesn't sound healthy.
No.
Does it start with a P?
Yes. Good, Matthew. PHTH.
So
Phthalate. What is it?
I've seen the word.
Not phallic, but phthalate. So phthalates are chemicals added to plastics to make them flexible.
Oh, good.
So you might say, why would manufacturers add phthalates to mac and cheese?
Yeah.
Especially when they're illegal to be put in toys. They're dangerous. They cause developmental delays. And you would not normally want to add that to a food. Well, it turns out they don't purposely add it. When the macaroni noodles are wiggling down the plastic conveyor belt, they leach in some of the the phthalates. The cheese is really the bigger issue because when you aerosolize the cheese in order to make powder out of it, they go through little plastic tubes, and it probably leaches a little bit of phthalate out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the concern. Now, here's the good news. The amount of phthalates in your mac and cheese are less than what the kids are getting running around the floor. Your floor, your carpets, they have more phthalates in them. So I don't like the fact that they're there, but they're not all that bad. So I think you're fine with mac and cheese. But just as a hack, just in case, I had Daphne, my daughter, who's much better at this than I am, come up with a recipe that she showed me. So she takes butternut squash, puts a little cheese in there, makes a big little ragu out of it, and then puts it in the freezer. When you're going to make your mac and cheese, you take the macaroni, boil them, takes 2 minutes. Take it out of the freezer, add it at the last second. It takes literally 60 seconds more than a traditional mac and cheese, and you're done. And you don't have to even worry about the phthalates. And you know everything you're putting in there.
That sounds way too healthy. I can't do that.
Yeah, of course you can. I have
You
confidence in
like
you.
more phthalates than not.
Yes, he likes phthalates. He likes the way they make him look.
I love them. They gave me that bendable feel, like a good toy.
Yeah.
A well-preserved coast.
Look, Dr. Oz, it's always so much fun to have you here. We learn so much. And if I may just say one thing, you were saying earlier, we were talking about medical marijuana and how law enforcement is making it difficult for medical marijuana to help people that needs to help. Don't you think, though, it's the people who make the laws? It's the legislators. It's the people who vote for it to make it into a law. And it's the
legislators are in their individual states, one by one approving it, and it will be approved in almost all the states.
Good, and that's what we need to do.
Right, but the problem that I'm arguing for, and these are not bad people. I've spoken to these people. These law enforcement is not bad and evil. They're scared. They don't want to be blamed at the federal level for being lax on drugs in America. And I'm trying to get them to relax and say, hey, listen, I understand that that's a responsibility and an obligation you feel. This is not the problem. Let's focus on the real problem, which is hard narcotics. And let's relax the DEA to allow doctors to do more research on this marijuana as it could be used. I've never gotten high in my life, and I'm not in the recreational marijuana. As a physician, though, I feel very strongly that if I have a drug that could help somebody, let me use it.
Right.
Don't make it hard for me or dangerous for me to use it and create these weird hypocrisies. Laws that are hypocritical hurt our country terribly because then people say, I'm going to not follow the law because it's a bad law. And we don't want that either. This is a bad law. We should free states to use medical marijuana, free doctors whose legislators have allowed them to use it to do this and get out of their way. And we shouldn't have the federal government, the DEA or the FDA being pressured to crack down on doctors. And listen, I know there are going to be abuses that happen out there, but people aren't dying from marijuana. They're dying from narcotics. Let's focus on what's killing people.
We love you, Dr. Oz. Thank you for coming in today.
I love you, man.
By the way, if you can get in touch with whoever is who's legislating the laws of where you live, you really should let them know how you feel about this.
Can I ask you one
Absolutely.
last question?
Yeah.
So I've been talking with the OJ's team a fair amount, and I'm just curious where you guys land on this. So I had OJ's lawyer,
O.J. Simpson.
O.J. Simpson.
Oh boy.
So I have his defense attorney, Malcolm Laverne, who actually got him on parole. And then I had Chris Darden, who was the prosecuting attorney from back in Los Angeles. If you remember, he's the African-American attorney who was sort of leading that with Marsha Clark and Collapse.
No, we love him. He's excellent.
So I had them both on the show, both talking about him. Obviously, Chris Darden is passionate about OJ being a dangerous man, should not be released. He says he went to the murder scene. He saw these people. It was the most brutal murder scene he's ever seen. He thinks he's dangerous. Malcolm Laverne, on the other hand, is arguing that he's reformed, he's changed. And he brought me a message from OJ, but I don't know if you know this, but in jails they watch network television because they don't get cable a lot of times, and in daytime, since I'm male friendly, all the prisoners apparentally watch my show.
Oh, you're big in the prison.
So I got that. Yeah, I got that big. I got that
they don't
going
watch
for me.
Orange Is the New Black while they're in prison.
That's on cable. It's like they're living it. They don't have to watch it.
So what did OJ say in his message to you, Dr. Oz?
Well, he said a couple of things about how he's getting, moving on beyond where he's been and trying to change. But he also said he'd watched a show that I did on NFL players in concussions.
Oh.
And whether or not, and just the fact he was asking the question got me to think, well, maybe he's worried about being hit in the head playing football for all those years, and maybe that may have affected him.
Maybe it turned him into a brutal murderer.
Yeah, if he murdered him again, he was acquitted. So that's an allegation at this point. What are your thoughts on that? I'm opening up to the floor.
Well, no. Look. Let's talk to Danielle, who's a mother.
Yeah.
Ask Danielle, do you want your kids to play football in school?
Nope. I have a couple of friends who her teenage son, one of them, started acting really weird, started not being able to remember words, and and it turned out it was because of playing football at school already in his teen years and getting hit in the head so much, and he now has problems because of the football. So my kids have not asked, and that's, if they do ask, I probably would point them in a different direction.
What about you, Froggy?
Danielle knows this has been a big problem in my house. My son wanted to play football so bad. He played flag football for a while and then really wanted to play tackle ball. Some of his friends did, and I spoke to a couple of former NFL players whose children do not play, and I asked them why. And they said that the impact that is happening on the brain and on the head with all this impact, your body's not made for that. They don't know how to hit each other. They don't know how to fall. There's so many injuries are happening that we said no, and it was a real problem. He was very upset with us and thought we were being too protective. But I think now the more he sees as it's happening and seeing these football players and what's happening, he understands now why we did that, and that's why we're not okay with it.
There you go. So I think that asking me what I feel about it, I listen to what they're saying. It just makes all the sense in the world, Dr. Oz. Are you going to have a show on that pretty soon?
Yeah, it's a big topic, and I'm interested in understanding what he's going to do and where you go from where he's been. It's it still captivates the American public because he was such an iconic figure when I was growing up, and then he fell so hard. And, of course, we're all divided about what happened in Los Angeles and why was he acquitted. Chris Darden, who's really suffered personally, again, he's a prosecuting attorney, he says if we'd done our job right, this man would be in handcuffs, not walking free.
Wow.
There you go.
And you realize that people carry that burden with them their whole lives. It launched a whole industry, that case.
Yeah.
Right? All these folks who became the Kardashians, right?
Yep.
A lot of big names got launched that, but the whole concept that America could go into a courtroom and judge itself. We could all be the jury on these cases.
So food can fix it. This is my goal. Next week, I'm hoping I can pull some strings and get Amazon to send me one. Food, don't you love Amazon?
I know.
Food can fix it with Dr. Oz. Great shows on the way, including the Greg T's kids who both broke their ankles at a trampoline park show. Can't wait. It's going to be great. Dr. Oz, we love you. Thanks for coming on today.
I love you too.
Dr. Oz!